Welcome to Catholic Views. I'm your host, Renee Kranz. On today's show, we get a full 30 minutes of Dr. Chris Bergwald.
Yes, you do.
Woo! So, Chris and I, for the interview portion of the show, we are going to talk about some Christian media ads series, The Chosen and He Gets Us ads. And we'll talk about them a little bit, some possible issues with them, what they're doing good, those kind of things, and how to watch them as Catholics and pay attention to this stuff. So stick around for that. First, of course, we have some biblical bites with Dr. B.
Yes, him again.
Woo, him again.
And
it's Ash Wednesday as we're recording.
And therefore, today is
the first day of Lent.
Not today. Like
what
Sunday is it,
Sunday.
Renee?
Sorry. First Sunday of Lent.
The interview goes much better, folks. Don't worry. So do you every year, the gospel for the first Sunday of Lent is always about the same thing, and therefore, like the preface prayed at Mass is about this thing. Do you have any idea, Renee, off the top of your head, recording early as we are, what the gospel for the first Sunday of Lent is always about?
My guess is it's about John the Baptist going out into the desert.
Good guess, but no.
Or Jesus going out in the desert.
To be
tempted.
Yes. So the gospel is always
to be a desert somewhere, right?
So the preface, the first part of the Eucharistic prayer before we kneel, there's a preface for the temptation of the Lord. So the first Sunday of Lent is I think every year is about the temptation of the Lord. So the gospel for this year is from Matthew, but the first reading, which will be brought up during the interview. A little bit, is from Genesis.
Okay.
So there's a little bit from Genesis chapter 2, the second creation account, where the first creation account is sort of big picture creation of everything, and then with the creation of man and woman as the pinnacle of God's material creation. The second creation is much more personal, where it's God formed Adam from the dust and then took created Eve from his side. We don't get all of that, just a little excerpt from chapter 2, that second creation account. Most of then the first reading from Genesis chapter 3 with the fall. So this is where, when you're people reading, and now we've got things like Father Mike Schmitz and the Bible in a Year, and he can help us explain, but people who maybe just have tried in the past to pick up their Bible and read it through pretty quickly, obviously Genesis, first book of the Bible, chapter 3, pretty early on.
You probably can get through that one.
You probably get that far sometime the first week of January if you're doing the New Year's resolution kind of thing. But like there's a talking snake. Like, what the heck is going on here? A talking snake.
I didn't know that's where we were going to go here.
Well, that's what happens. Have you not read Genesis chapter 3?
Well, I have, yes.
And people this is weird or dumb because snakes can't talk. Right. Snakes can't talk.
Right. Even then, they didn't talk. So just you never know what people don't know. So a lot of listeners might be really familiar with this already, but just for folks who aren't, the serpent that talks to Eve is not your regular old run-of-the-mill snake. Right.
It's not actually a snake at all. It is in fact Satan.
Right.
It is the fallen angel who became the prince of the demons, Lucifer, Satan. The devil. So the devil, with the other fallen angels, having already fallen, is now going to try to corrupt God's other personal creation. So angels are personal beings with intellects and free wills, and then human beings are personal beings with intellects and free wills. And as far as we're aware, at this point in human history, angels and human beings are the only personal beings in God's creation.
Okay.
And Satan goes about to try to corrupt, to tempt Adam and Eve to turn from God, just as he and the other fallen angels did as well.
Right.
So that's what's going on. And so this is setting up in Genesis chapter 3, really for the rest of human history, what's going to happen. We read from Genesis chapter 3, several months from now, not a few months ago, December 8th, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, where it's about the victory that's going to come.
Yep.
But here, it's just laying out, Jesus is going to go into the desert, into the wilderness, to face temptation, just as Adam and Eve faced temptation, not in the wilderness, not in the desert, but in the garden.
Yeah.
So there's the parallel where Eve and Adam failed. The new Adam, as Jesus is sometimes God, is going to be victorious.
And thank goodness he is, or
Amen.
we would have a much worse life.
Amen.
Thanks, Dr.
You bet.